Okay, this video is for geometry. I'm out with a sub today because my son is sick and my daughter still has a little bit of fever, so it's kind of rough going for my kids right now. And I'll be back, should be back in on Monday. So in this video, this is for the whole class. I'm going to have you walk you through something that I want you to do. Then I want you to pause the video and do that thing. And then when the time allotted has passed, we'll resume the next part of the video and you'll do that thing. If you get behind or you get a little bit behind, what I want you to do is whenever the next section gets played is to stop what you're doing and do the next thing. And then if you have time, you can go back and like finish up whatever. But I want you to keep on track with where the videos are to make sure that you're doing each step along the way. If you don't get every last thing done, that's okay, as long as you've engaged in each step as much as you can along the way today. Okay, so first we're going to get started with the simple stuff. I've got a bunch of things to give you. They're up here on the table, and you need to come up and grab them. So first, let's go over the optional supplies. So these are things that you can choose to take, but you don't have to. So one's a pouch to hold all of your supplies in. You can grab 2 sharpened pencils. There is a protractor. Make sure that when you take this out of its little plastic, there it is, that you throw the plastic away. I don't want to have to pick up a bunch of plastic. You take it out, stick it in your pouch, throw this away, find a garbage. You can have a ruler. Okay, some of them might be cracked or whatever, so grab a good one. Okay, and then here, this is a compass. Same thing. Make sure you throw the plastic away. Okay. So these are, again, this is what you can take. This is for you. It's yours. But after this point, it's now your responsibility to bring these materials to this class every single day. And if you lose, break, or just forget these materials, you'll be still responsible for the work, even if you don't have the materials. And so that'll be on you. So you have them now. You need to keep them, put them in a place that they won't like break or anything like that. Okay. The other thing, and so these will stay with you. You'll take them home today and keep them for the rest of the semester. This is something that will stay with me, but it's yours, but it'll stay with me. So this is our first unit little booklet with some worksheet stuff. I want you to pay attention to how it's like organized, like which way is up and which way is down. So if you actually open it up and see the text, you can kind of get a sense of that. So here's the start. Here's the front page. So figure out what the front page is. And this front page, the reason why it's a dotted grid is I want you to do 2 things on this page. Number 1 is I want you to put your name and geometry spelled out nice and big and bold. So I'll just do that here as an example. Okay. Don't use Sharpie. I was about to use Sharpie. Don't use Sharpie. Nice and big and bold. So so there you go. And actually, coming to look at it, if you I'd be okay with you using Sharpie. We just won't use this page right here. We'll just start with this page. Yeah. So if you want to use Sharpie, that's fine. So your name nice and big. Make it easy so that when I pull these out and go to hand them out, it's really easy to see. The second thing, and we're going to give you, I'll have the sub put a timer on for 15 minutes. For 15 minutes, you get to draw geometric shapes using your tools that you just got. So. And patterns. So it's kind of like doodling, but doodling with the tools. So let me just kind of show you what you can do with these tools. Obviously, with this, you can draw straight lines. Okay. With this one, you can do some curves, but you can also, if you know how to use it, you can measure out specific angles by marking this center spot, the end of it, and then whatever angle you want. Say I wanted 60 degrees, I'd be right there, and then that's an angle that it makes. Anyway, you could do that. This one will make circles, if you, yeah, should be a little bit, kind of pull on it. It's got a lot of friction to it. So if you stick this down at where you want to make a circle, you can center it there, and you can make a whole circle. Got to get my technique down on this one. You can make a whole circle or even part of a circle. But as long as that stays in one position, as I turn it around, it will make a circle. Okay? So I want you to decorate your thing with geometric shapes, and you will get 15 minutes. Go ahead and pause the video here, set a timer for 15 minutes, and get started. Okay, hopefully you've paused the video and you've already decorated your front with using these tools. I wanted you to make sure you experiment with all of them. If you have not done that, you need to pause the video and finally do that. Okay. Now, let's move to the inside. So because I'm letting you use Sharpie, this side might have a bunch of like Sharpie bleed on it. I do have Sharpies up here, but if you use them, put them back. Okay. On here, we're going to make a table of contents. Now, for sure, here, don't use a Sharpie. So you're going to write table of contents. And then I also want you to write just a number 1 here, as in page 1. Then I want you to take a straight edge, and we're going to make some sections. Okay. Let's go to that dot. We're going to go down from not all the way to the bottom of the page, just in this section here. So here we're going to write page. This is our table of contents, like what page things are on. Okay. And then we'll make a little bit of a larger space here. Okay. And this is like the title on each page. Like what is each page about? Okay. And then we need, it was 2 other fields. I'm trying to remember what those 2 other fields were. I'm going to space out. Maybe we'll make the 2 fields and I'll write the 1 on there for now. And then when I remember what the other one is, we'll do that. Okay. Here, I want you to write the word score, because you're going to self-evaluate your score in each one of these sections. In the note sections, in the worksheet sections, you're going to evaluate the score. Forgetting what the last one is, but we'll get to it. Down at the bottom, we'll eventually create some sort of legend, and in general, we'll use it for vocabulary in all of these sections. Okay, now, the rest of these sections here are for note-taking, so that when I do instructions, you can write down some notes. Okay, and then we get to these worksheet sections, where you can do some worksheet problems. Okay, and so we're going to do that a little bit here in this video. But before we do that, to set up this notebook, this is page 1, so you need to flip the page and write page 2, and so on. Okay. If you do this correctly, I'm not going to actually do it all the way to the end, but I'm going to get pretty far here. If you do this correctly, the first worksheet should be on page, I want to say it's like 8 or 9. Yeah, page 8. Okay. And here is where we're going to focus our first lesson. Okay. So, this worksheet, you can read through it. It's just about a review of the Cartesian coordinate plane. You can read through it and do the exercises. But I do want you to actually read through it. Read through it, look at the examples. But I'm going to do a couple examples for the sake of speed in this video. I'm trying not to make this video forever long. I just want to do 2 examples. So I'm going to pick 2 from here. Okay. So again, I still want you to read through this. So if you need to pause the video to read through it, do that. Okay. So I'm going to do example number 7. And I'm going to do example number 17. Okay. So example number 7, we see that we want to draw a point, and that point's name is going to be W at the coordinate 3 and negative 2.5. The first coordinate tells us how far to go to left, right. The second coordinate tells us how far to go up or down. So 3, that's positive, that's to the right. And negative 2.5, that's negative, that's down. So I'm going to go right 3, down 2.5. So I always start at the origin. That's this spot here with where the thicker lines cross. So that's 0, 0. And I go 3 right, 1, 2, 3, and then 2.5 down. 1, 2.5 right there. And right there, I draw the letter W to label it, just like we did on our airplanes. And so that's what I expect you to do in that top section. And in the bottom section, it shows you, hey, like, tell me what the coordinates of G are. So you'll do this in reverse. So you can see the arrows here. That's where the arrows come, the lines with arrows, that's called the origin, or the x-axis and y-axis. It's just a review, so there's nothing new here. So that's where they come together. That spot is 0, 0. So this here would be going 5 left and 4 up, okay? And since it's left, it's negative. Now, if you want to know how to count, the way to count is the gaps. So if I start here, how many gaps do I need to cross to get over to here? And so you can see 1 gap, this square here is a gap, 1 gap, 2 gaps, 3 gaps, 4 gaps, 5 gaps. You don't start counting 1 here. This is your starting point. You don't start at 1, you start at 0. So your first one, 1, is right there because you count gaps, okay? So 5 gaps, 4 gaps up. And since this is left, that's negative. Since that's up, it's positive. And then I just write right here that I went left, negative 5. So negative 5 is my first thing because I went left 5, okay? And then 4, and that's it. Okay? So that's what I want you to do for this worksheet. There are some other questions here at the bottom to do as well. Your task is to do this whole thing. Read this section, then do this section. That's what your task is. Okay? You can pause the video now, and then I'll give you your final instructions for today. Okay, so for your final instructions, we're not going to go too deep on this rabbit trail because I want to be in the room. And so if you finish early, if you do finish early, go back to your front page and do some more geometric sketches. Use the time wisely. Or if you finish early, take your airplane. If you didn't finish drawing all the lines, so this student here drew lines, but they hadn't drawn in like their labels for all of these intersection points where everything comes together. So what are they going to call it? A, B, C, D, all that kind of stuff. So those are things that you can use the extra time for. Okay. Now you do need to have at least 1 airplane done to just get started on this section, because we're going to do just the very basics of starting on our notes here. Okay. So first, this is going to be, on page 2, our notes are going to be about geometric definitions. Normally, when we do things that are about definitions or vocabulary, what words mean, we'll do it in this bottom section, but we need to start with a whole section of like definitions and symbols and such, and so we're going to kind of use the whole page. And we're only going to do 3 things today. One is a point. Another is a line. And then the third is a line segment. Okay. Okay. All right. So a point represents a precise location in space. So you can write this down. You can copy these notes. The reason why we say it represents is if you zoom in here, there's a lot of dots, and you might call one of these dots a point. You could call that like point A or point B. But that dot actually, if you could measure its width and its height. And a point does not have the ability to measure how wide or tall or deep or whatever. It has no dimensions to measure because it's just a spot. It's a location. So we represent it with a dot, but a point is not a dot. If you actually drew a point, you couldn't see it. It would be infinitely small. It's just about the location that something is at. Okay? All right? And a line, okay? A line is a straight path through 2 points, 2 or more. There could be, in fact, there's technically an infinite number of points, but it's defined by at least 2 of them. So if I look on this page, if I see 2 points that are in a, well, any 2 points are in a straight path, but as far as like having a straight path drawn, we can talk about the line. So if I look here, there's the letter N, there's the letter O, I could talk about line NO, line NO, okay? Or I could talk about line PI, or line OH, okay? So I can talk about these different lines, right? A line segment, and again, copy these notes down. The difference is that it's a straight path. Okay, so that's the same as a line, straight path, that begins at one point and ends at another point. Okay, so what's the difference here? So line is a path. It's a path that goes through the points, and that path does not end or begin anywhere. So when I talk about line NO, I'm not talking about just this part. I'm talking about the whole thing that continues beyond the edge of the page forever in both directions. But when I talk about line segment NO, I'm literally just talking about this section, that section. Okay? And so what I want you to do and have a discussion with whoever you're working with is where does it make sense on your airplane to talk about line segments? This starts and ends here. Like, for example, say the length of the wing, you would need to know like starts and ends. And where does it make sense to talk about like a path, not necessarily a starting any point, but a path, maybe the path where the air travels down the wing or those kinds of things. So have a conversation with a neighbor or a group. Where does it make sense to talk about line versus line segment? Okay, that's the whole thing for today. If you finish early, you can always decorate the front some more, or you need to finish having 2 airplanes that look like this. 2 airplanes that look like this. Okay, thank you.